Commander Alex Hayes straightened his uniform jacket as he approached the enormous doors of the Galactic Council chamber. Today marked the 15th anniversary of humanity's first appearance before the Council, and their 15th year of holding merely observer status. The chamber itself was designed to impress and intimidate. Curved walls rose over 200 feet high, adorned with the symbols of 1,000-member species. 5 massive thrones dominated the central platform, representing the founding species who had ruled galactic politics for millennia. Below them sat hundreds of representatives from full-member worlds, arranged in descending tiers that reflected their standing in the council hierarchy. And at the very bottom, a small table with a simple blue Earth flag. Observer status. Alex took his seat, nodding politely to the reptilian Centauri delegate to his left. The chamber hummed with conversation in dozens of languages, most of which Alex's neural translator handled reasonably well. "The Council recognizes the Vorak High Commander," announced the chamber eye in its flat, emotionless voice. The largest throne held Vorak Prime, an imposing figure with gray-blue skin, and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around what humans might call a face. The Vorak had been spacefaring when humans were still painting on cave walls, and they never let anyone forget it. "We now address Petition 4726B, the Earth application for associate membership." Vorak Prime's voice boomed through the chamber. "This body has reviewed the human application materials. Once again, we find the petition premature." Alex's fingers tightened around his datapad, but his face remained neutral. He had expected this. "The human species has made admirable progress in the last century," continued Vorak Prime. "However, you still exhibit concerning behaviors. Your history of internal conflict suggests evolutionary immaturity. Your technological advancement rate is unsettling." With respect, Alex stood, using his right to respond as Earth's designated representative. "Humanity has maintained galactic peace protocols for over 40 years. Our technological innovations have been shared openly with council races, especially medical breakthroughs. What specific metrics are we failing to meet?" The Tilani representative, a willowy being with translucent skin, spoke next. "Commander Hayes, these evaluations are complex. Perhaps in another decade." "You said that a decade ago," Alex replied, his voice still calm but carrying throughout the silent chamber. "And the decade before that." The Kel representative, a being resembling an upright feline, made a sound that translated as dismissive laughter. "Impatience, another human trait that concerns us." Alex looked around the chamber. For 15 years, Earth had played by their rules. Shared technology, accepted unfair trade agreements, restricted expansion to council-approved territories, all to prove they belonged at the table. The 5th throne held Araxian Prime, oldest of all the council leaders. "Perhaps," the ancient being said slowly, "another century of observation would be appropriate. Your kind is so young." Something shifted in Alex's expression. The council members who knew humans well recognized it immediately. A decision had been made. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Alex said, his voice quiet but carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. "For 15 years, Earth has demonstrated peaceful intentions, technological innovation, and cultural adaptation. We've met every written requirement for membership 3 times over." He stepped away from his small table and walked to the center of the floor, a breach of protocol that caused gasps among the delegates. "It has become clear that the true barrier to our membership is not our qualifications, but your fear. You speak of evolutionary maturity while practicing the most primitive form of politics, keeping others down to maintain your position." The chamber erupted in outraged shouts, but Alex continued, his voice somehow cutting through the noise. "Therefore, I am authorized to inform this body that as of this moment, Earth and all human colonies formally withdraw from all council proceedings, treaties, and obligations. We will chart our own path among the stars." Alex placed his council access badge on the floor. The simple metal disc seemed impossibly small against the grandeur of the chamber. "Humanity leaves the table. Good day." The silence that followed him out of the chamber was complete. None of the council members, from the mighty five to the lowest observer, had ever seen a species simply walk away. They would soon learn that was humanity's first lesson. The emergency council chamber looked nothing like the grand hall where Alex Hayes had made his dramatic exit just hours before. This room was small, circular, and hidden deep beneath the main council building. No recordings were allowed here. No observers. No witnesses. Lara Collins pressed herself against the wall of the narrow maintenance shaft, carefully adjusting her optical sensor. She had installed the tiny device 3 years ago, waiting for just this moment. As Earth's intelligence officer posing as a junior diplomatic aide, she had learned that real decisions were never made in the open. 5 beings sat around the table below, one from each founding council race. No assistants, no translators, just the most powerful individuals in the galaxy. "This is unprecedented," said the Telani elder, her translucent skin pulsing with nervous blue light. "No species has ever simply withdrawn." The Vorak commander slammed his fist on the table. "Because no species would dare. This is exactly what we feared from the humans. Unpredictable, emotional, dangerous." Lara's device captured every word, transmitting an encrypted feed to her implant and back to Earth Command. "Let them go," said the Kel representative, whiskers twitching with apparent disinterest. "They are one primitive species on the edge of the galaxy." The Myzoran scientist shook his bulbous head, compound eyes reflecting the room's dim light. "You misunderstand the situation. I have studied their development patterns. Look at this data." A hologram appeared above the table. Lara recognized it immediately. A comparison chart of technological advancement rates for various species. The human line shot upward at an angle that made the others look nearly flat. "This is not a natural progression," the Myzoran continued. "Most species take thousands of years to advance from primitive flight to space exploration. Humans did it in less than 1 century. "We know all this," the Vorak growled. "It's why we kept them at observer status." "What you don't know," the Myzoran replied, "is that my new projections show them potentially surpassing our technology within decades, not centuries as we previously thought." A heavy silence filled the room. The ancient Araxian, who had been quiet until now, leaned forward. "Then perhaps Commander Hayes was correct. Perhaps our reluctance to grant them membership was based on fear." "With good reason," the Vorak shouted. "They are violent, ambitious, and now unpredictable. The perfect combination for galactic instability." The Teleni's skin had darkened to a deep purple, a sign of extreme distress. "If they advance as the Myzoran suggests, without the moderating influence of council oversight." "Exactly," the Vorak cut in. "We must discuss containment options. Now." Lara felt her heart race. This was exactly what Earth had suspected for years. Their continued exclusion wasn't about evolutionary maturity, but about the Council's fear of human potential. Containment would be seen as an act of war, the Araxian warned. "And if they are as advanced as we fear, possibly a war we cannot win." "Then we must be subtle," the Kel purred. "Economic isolation, technology restrictions, perhaps some unfortunate accidents to their key research facilities." In her hiding place, Lara carefully began to withdraw. She had enough. But as she moved, her foot dislodged a small maintenance tool that clattered down the shaft. "Security scan," the Vorak barked immediately. Lara didn't wait. She activated her emergency extraction signal and moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels she had memorized years ago. Behind her, she could hear security teams mobilizing. 40 minutes later, aboard a small diplomatic shuttle leaving Council space, Lara reviewed the recording. Admiral Paul Hunter and Director Olivia Mills would find it very interesting. The Council wasn't just stalling humanity, they were actively afraid. As her ship accelerated toward the jump point, Lara allowed herself a small smile. The Council's fear had just begun. And now, humanity knew exactly what they were dealing with. 6 months passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. The Council expected angry messages, trade disputes, or even military posturing. Instead, they got silence. Human ships simply disappeared from common trade routes. Colonial outposts closed their spaceports to alien vessels. Communication channels fell quiet. It was as if humanity had decided to vanish from galactic society altogether. The Council sent envoys to Earth. Each returned with the same polite but firm message. Humanity respectfully declines further interaction at this time. Behind this veil of silence, Earth was changing. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, the largest construction project in human history was underway. Dr. Kevin Wright looked out from the observation deck of Ceres Station at the massive shipyards stretching for miles across the asteroid's curved surface. Hundreds of ships in various stages of completion filled the construction base. None of them resembled the simple vessels humanity had used before. "Status report on the Neptune initiative," he asked. Fleet Commander Grace Martinez handed him a tablet. "We're ahead of schedule. The first wave of defensive platforms is already deployed at each colony. The new drive systems have passed all tests, and the Europa facility will begin manufacturing advanced shield technology next week." Kevin nodded, studying the data. When they left the Council, Earth's leadership had made a bold decision. They would no longer pretend to be less advanced than they were. The technologies kept hidden from the Council's restrictive policies were now being developed openly. "And morale?" Kevin asked. Grace smiled. "Better than ever. It's amazing what people can do when they stop trying to meet someone else's standards and start reaching for their own potential." On the main bridge of Ceres Station, Admiral Paul Hunter addressed representatives from all 15 human colonies via secure hologram. The largest colonial delegation came from Proxima Centauri, humanity's first extrasolar settlement. "The Council believes we've isolated ourselves out of anger or spite," Paul said. "That's exactly what we want them to think. Meanwhile, we're building something they've never imagined." He activated a holographic display showing the Neptune Initiative's complete 3-year plan. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. "We spent 15 years playing by their rules," Paul continued. "We shared our medical advances, but hid our military technology. We accepted their trade restrictions and territory limitations. We pretended to be less than we are. No more." Governor Sam Reynolds of Proxima Colony leaned forward. "What about the intelligence that they're planning containment strategies against us?" "Let them try," Grace said, entering the bridge. "By the time they make their move, we'll be ready." In the science wing, Dr. Olivia Mills reviewed data from the latest engine tests. The new slip space drive would allow human ships to bypass traditional detection methods, appearing virtually anywhere without warning. This wasn't just an improvement on existing technology. It was an entirely new approach. "Remarkable," said engineer Luis Rodriguez, watching the test results. "The Council's fastest ships can cover 10 light-years in a day. Ours will do 300. And they'll never see us coming," Olivia added. Back on Earth, in a heavily secured room beneath Geneva, President Diane Clark reviewed the latest Council intelligence. The Voruk and Kel were indeed drawing up plans to restrict human expansion, unaware that humanity was already 10 steps ahead. "Send word to Shiro on Astra Station," she told her aide. "It's time to implement Phase 2. While the Council searched for signs of human activity along old trade routes and patrol sectors, the Neptune Initiative continued accelerating in secret. New shipyards appeared in hidden asteroid belts around distant colonies. Research stations in deep space pushed technology forward at unprecedented rates. Humanity wasn't retreating from the galactic community. They were preparing to rejoin it, on their own terms, with their own strength, and with no one's permission but their own. Astra Station hung like a giant metal snowflake against the backdrop of space, its 5 arms extending from a central hub. As the largest neutral trading post in this sector of the galaxy, it welcomed ships from hundreds of species every day. Shiro Nakamura sat at his usual table in the station's busiest dining hall, slowly sipping a drink that resembled Earth tea but came from a plant grown on the Talani homeworld. All around him, aliens from dozens of species conducted business, shared gossip, and eyed each other with varying degrees of trust. He was the only human on the entire station. As Earth's sole authorized point of contact with alien species, Shiro had a unique job. He listened. A group of Zentari traders walked past his table, their insect-like mandibles clicking in their native language. One of them noticed Shiro and froze, then hurriedly guided his companions away. This reaction had become common in the months since humanity's withdrawal from the Council. Shiro made a mental note of the encounter. The Zentari, once eager trade partners with Earth colonies, now seemed afraid of even casual contact. Interesting. His neural implant recorded everything he saw and heard, flagging conversations of particular interest. Though he appeared to be simply enjoying his drink, Shiro was conducting vital intelligence work. "May I join you?" The voice came from behind him. Shiro turned to see an Araxian, taller than most of his kind, with the distinctive silver patterns on his face that indicated advanced age and knowledge. "Please do," Shiro said, gesturing to the empty chair. The Araxian sat down with surprising grace for such a large being. "I am Zeltor, scientific advisor to the Araxian delegation." Shiro inclined his head. "Shiro Nakamura, Earth Observer." "The only Earth Observer anywhere in Council space," Zeltor noted. "You have become quite famous, you know. The lone human who still speaks to the stars." Shiro smiled slightly. "I'm just a simple xenanthropologist doing my job." "We both know that's not entirely true," the Araxian said quietly. "But I haven't come to pry into your real purpose here." The alien leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I've come with a warning." Shiro's face remained neutral, but his implant automatically increased its recording sensitivity. "The Council is fragmenting over how to respond to humanity's withdrawal," Zeltor continued. "The Araxians and Talani favor reopening dialogue. The Mizora remain neutral. But the Voruk and Kel—" He paused. "Yes," Shiro prompted. "They are preparing what they call a containment strategy. Military assets are being moved to the borders of what was once recognized as human space." Shiro sipped his tea calmly. "That sounds like an internal council matter." "It won't remain internal if their plans proceed," Zeltor said. "I am a scientist, not a politician. I have studied your species extensively. Humans are adaptable, resilient, and remarkably innovative. If the Voruk force a confrontation, I fear where it might lead." A group of Kel security officers entered the dining hall, their feline eyes scanning the crowd. One pointed toward Shiro's table. "Our conversation must end," Zeltor said, rising. "But know this. Not all Council species view humanity with fear. Some of us see potential allies." The Araxian left quickly, disappearing into the crowd just as the Kel officers approached. "Human," the lead officer said, his translator making the word sound like an insult. "Your movements on this station are being monitored. Restricted areas have been reported accessed using human biometric signatures." Shiro raised an eyebrow. "I've been sitting here for hours." "We are watching you," the Kel said before walking away. That night, in his small quarters, Shiro prepared a secure transmission to Earth Command. Rumors about human activities were spreading throughout the galaxy. Some claimed Earth was building planet-destroying weapons. Others whispered that humans had achieved faster-than-light travel beyond anything the Council possessed. The most interesting part was that none of these rumors had been started by humans. The Council races were frightening themselves with speculation about what humanity might be doing in isolation. Shiro included Zeltor's warning about military movements in his report. The Neptune Initiative would need this intelligence. The Voruk were apparently planning to make the first move. As he finished his transmission, Shiro watched ships coming and going from the station. Soon, one of those ships would be human, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 years passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. During this time, no human ship had been seen in Council space. Trade had stopped. Communication had ceased. The only human anyone encountered was Shiro Nakamura on Aspra Station, and he revealed nothing of importance. On Kaldar, the Vorak homeworld, High General Drez Kar reviewed the latest defense grid reports. The Vorak had doubled their fleet presence along all borders with former human territories. Their containment strategy was nearly complete. All patrol sectors report normal activity, his aide said. No sign of human vessels anywhere. Dreskar grunted with satisfaction. The humans had clearly retreated to lick their wounds after their emotional departure from the Council. Perhaps in another decade, they would return, properly humbled, and ready to accept their place in the galactic hierarchy. The office comm system chimed. "General, we have an emergency on the command level." Dreskar hurried to the central command center deep within the Vorak military headquarters. Officers rushed between stations, shouting orders. "Report," he demanded. A senior officer turned to him, 6 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. "An unknown vessel has appeared in orbit around Kaldar. It came from nowhere. No hyperjump signature. No approach vector. It simply appeared." "Impossible," Dreskar growled. "Nothing can bypass our sensor grid." The main screen activated, showing an orbital view. A sleek vessel hung in space above Kaldar. It was clearly of human design, but unlike any human ship previously documented. Its hull was dark, absorbing light rather than reflecting it, with strange blue energy patterns flowing across its surface. "Scanning now," an officer reported. "Energy readings are, sir, we can't make sense of them. Our systems can't identify the power source." Dreskar felt a cold sensation in his core. "Open a channel." The screen changed, showing a human female in a dark uniform with silver trim. Her insignia was unfamiliar. "This is Captain Jordan Miller of the United Earth Ship Horizon. To whom am I speaking?" Dreskar straightened. "This is High General Dreskar of the Vorak Defense Force. Your presence in Vorak space is an act of war. Power down and prepare to be boarded." The human captain smiled slightly. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, General. I'm here to deliver a message, not to surrender." "You are one ship against a planetary defense system," Dreskar said. "You have no choice." "Actually," Captain Miller replied, "we have many choices. For instance, we chose to visit your homeworld today. We could have appeared anywhere in your territory. We could have arrived at any of your military bases, colony worlds, or research stations. We could have come with one ship or many." Dreskar felt his aides shifting nervously beside him. "How did you bypass our detection grid?" he demanded. "That's not important," Miller said. "What matters is that we did. What matters is that your containment strategy is useless against technology you don't understand. What matters is that humans don't respond well to threats." Dreskar slammed his fist down. "Launch interceptors," he ordered. "I wouldn't," Miller said calmly. "Before your ships reach us, I'll be gone. But I'll leave you with this message. We could have arrived anywhere, at any time, undetected. Remember this before you consider your containment strategy further." On a second screen, Dreskar watched as his fastest interceptors launched toward the human vessel. They would reach it in minutes. But before they covered half the distance, the UES horizon began to shimmer with blue energy. There was no flash, no burst of speed. The ship simply vanished from normal space. "Track them," Dreskar roared. "Sir," his sensor officer replied, voice shaking, "there's nothing to track. No energy signature, no warp trail, no distortion field. It's like they ceased to exist." Across the galaxy, on 5 other major Vorak worlds, similar scenes played out simultaneously. 6 human ships appeared and disappeared within minutes of each other, all delivering the same message. In the council chambers, the Vorak ambassador received emergency communications from home. His hand shook as he turned to the other council members. "The humans," he said, "they have returned. And they are not what we thought." The demonstration of the slip space drive sent shockwaves through the council. Emergency sessions were called. Defense budgets doubled overnight. The Vorok and Kel demanded immediate action against the human threat. But Earth was already implementing the next phase of its strategy. Dr. Samantha Reed stepped off her shuttle onto Mizora Prime, the first human to officially visit a council world since the withdrawal. She wore no weapons, brought only a small medical team, and requested no security. The Mizoran greeting party watched her nervously, their large compound eyes blinking rapidly. "Thank you for allowing us to visit," Samantha said, bowing slightly in the Mizoran tradition. "We come with open hands and open minds." Chief Scientist Krell Ziv returned the gesture cautiously. "Your message was unexpected. You claim to have a solution for our degradation crisis." The Mizora faced extinction. Centuries of living in artificial environments had weakened their genetic structure. Each generation was born frailer than the last, with higher infant mortality. Within a few hundred years, their species would be gone. "Not a complete solution," Samantha said honestly, "but perhaps the beginning of one." In a medical facility provided by the Mizora, Samantha's team set up their equipment. Unlike the threatening display of the UES horizon, this mission showed a different side of humanity. "During our isolation, we made advances in genetic regeneration," Samantha explained as she worked. "We believe these techniques can be adapted to help stabilize Mizoran DNA." Krell Ziv watched skeptically. "The Council has had our best scientists working on this problem for decades. What could humans possibly offer?" Samantha smiled. "A fresh perspective, different approaches, and perhaps most importantly, no political limitations on our research." Over the next week, Samantha's team treated 50 Mizoran children suffering from severe genetic degradation. By the end of their stay, 47 showed significant improvement. The news spread across the Mizoran colonies like wildfire. Meanwhile, on the scholarly world of Talani Prime, another human delegation had arrived. Professor Alan Green led a small team of Earth's top physicists to share new theories of space-time manipulation. The Talani, natural scientists and philosophers, welcomed them with cautious curiosity. "We have no interest in council politics," Alan told the Talani Science Academy, "but we value the exchange of knowledge between curious minds." The Talani, who had always been the most moderate council voice regarding humanity, found themselves fascinated by the human discoveries. Many began to question the Council's portrayal of humans as dangerous. On Earth, Admiral Hunter discussed these missions with Director Mills. "To the aggressive species, we show strength," Paul said, watching reports from both delegations. "To the scholarly ones, we offer knowledge, divide, and enlighten." Olivia nodded. "The Araxians have already requested a diplomatic meeting. Their ambassador, Ben Richards, believes we could form a new alliance outside the Council framework." "And the Vorok?" Paul asked. "Still demanding Council action against us, but they're finding less support than they expected." In the Council chamber, for the first time in thousands of years, open disagreement erupted between the 5 founding species. "The humans have violated our space," the Vorok representative thundered. "They threaten our security with their technology. Yet they use this same technology to bring medical aid to the Mizora," the Araxian countered. "Perhaps we judged them too quickly." The Talani representative spoke next. "Our scientists report that human theories are revolutionizing our understanding of spacetime. They share freely what they know." "It's a trick," the Kel hissed. "They show us their left hand while the right holds a weapon." The Mizoran representative rose slowly. "My own child was dying from genetic degradation. Now he plays with his friends again. If this is a human trick, it is one that saves lives." Outside the chamber, news of humanity's selective outreach spread through the galaxy. Smaller species, long ignored by the Council, began sending their own messages to Earth, seeking similar exchanges. Captain Miller, now commanding Earth's diplomatic vessel UES Olive Branch, received these requests with satisfaction. The strategy was working perfectly. The mighty Council, which had stood united for 5,000 years, was beginning to splinter. and humanity hadn't fired a single shot. The Grand Council chamber, once a symbol of galactic unity, now stood half empty. Where representatives from 5,000 worlds once gathered, now barely 2,000 remained. The others had left to join humanity's new interstellar cooperative. The Tilani representative rose from her seat, her translucent skin glowing with determination. The chamber fell silent. For 5,000 years, no founding species had ever left the council. The Tilani people no longer recognize the authority of this body, she announced. We withdraw from all council treaties and obligations, effective immediately. Uproar erupted as she walked toward the exit. The Vorak Prime called for order, his booming voice barely audible over the chaos. You abandoned 5 millennia of tradition for these humans, he demanded. The Tilani paused at the doorway. No, we abandon a system that has become rigid and fearful. The humans simply showed us an alternative. As she left, the Araxian representative stood next. His ancient eyes surveyed the chamber one last time. The Araxians also withdraw, he stated simply, following the Tilani out. 2 founding species gone in a single day. The remaining council members looked at each other in shock. The once mighty council was crumbling. On Earth, Admiral Paul Hunter watched the broadcast with satisfaction. The plan was working better than anyone had expected. Instead of fighting the council, humanity had simply created something better. The Mizora will be next, predicted Director Olivia Mills, sitting beside him. Their population already views us as saviors after the genetic treatments. Paul nodded. And with them will go another third of the Council's member worlds. The smaller species are already lining up to join the cooperative. In orbit above Earth, the newly commissioned Third Fleet prepared for deployment. 20 ships, each more advanced than anything the Council races possessed, formed up in precise formation. Their commander, Rear Admiral Michelle Foster, addressed her captains from the bridge of the flagship UES Defender. Our mission is not combat, she reminded them. We will position ourselves at the edge of Vorak space as a message, not a threat. Humanity will defend itself and its allies if necessary, but we do not seek conflict. The fleet departed, using conventional drives until they reached the border, where they would reveal their slip space capability. The show of force was calculated, enough to give the Vorak and Kel pause, not enough to provoke them into desperate action. On Mizora Prime, the council representative faced a public revolt. Millions of Mizora had gathered outside government buildings, demanding they follow the Tilani and Araxians into the human alliance. The genetic treatments had spread to thousands of children now, with miracle-like results. Our future lies with those who saved our children, the protest leaders declared, not with those who offered only sympathy while we died. 2 days later, the Mizora officially withdrew from the council. Just as Olivia had predicted, dozens of smaller species followed immediately after. The cooperative's first official summit convened on New Geneva, an Earth colony famous for its beauty and peaceful history. Representatives arrived from worlds that had once been bitter enemies, now united by their connection to humanity. Ambassador Ben Richards, once the Araxian representative to the Council, and now humanity's envoy to the cooperative, opened the historic gathering. Unlike the Council we left behind, this alliance is built on mutual respect and benefit, he told the assembled delegates. No voice here will be silenced for being too young, too different, or too ambitious. The applause was thunderous. In the old council chamber, now eerily empty, the Vorak and Kel representatives sat alone with their remaining allies, mostly species too dependent on their protection to leave. We should attack now, the Kel urged, before they grow stronger. The Vorak stared at the empty seats where their fellow founding species once sat. 5,000 years of history, undone in mere months, all because they had feared human potential rather than embracing it. No, the Vorak said finally. We have already lost this war without firing a shot. A junior aide approached nervously. Honored ones, we have received a message from the Human Alliance. What now? Growled the Kel. The aide swallowed hard. They They have invited us to send observers to their next summit. 10 years had passed since Commander Alex Hayes walked out of the council chamber. What began as a single act of defiance had transformed the galaxy. The Great Hall of New Geneva Colony sparkled under the light of 1,000 floating lamps. Unlike the tiered, hierarchical arrangement of the old council, this room featured a truly circular table. No position was elevated above others. No species commanded a more prominent place. Admiral Paul Hunter, now Earth's prime representative, looked around at the gathered delegates from 27 species. Some had been council members. Others were races the council had dismissed as unworthy of attention. All were now equal partners in the interstellar cooperative. The 10th Galactic Summit is now in session, Paul announced. His gaze lingered on several empty seats near the door. They had been reserved for observer status delegations, a familiar concept, but implemented very differently here than in the old council. The door opened. A hush fell over the assembly. 3 figures entered, a Vorak, a Kel, and a representative from one of their allied species. They moved uncertainly, unused to not being the center of attention and authority. Paul nodded to them. "Welcome, observers. Please take your seats." The Vorak observer, once a high commander but now reduced in status, looked uncomfortable as he sat in the simple chair. For thousands of years, his species had sat on elevated thrones. Now they watched from the sidelines as their former subjects shaped the future. "Today marks a decade since humanity chose a different path," Paul continued. "We left a table where we were not welcome. In doing so, we found friends we never knew we had, and built something better than what we left behind." The Teleni representative, her skin glowing with a warm golden light, rose to speak. "When the humans departed, we thought them emotional and impulsive. We were wrong. They saw clearly what we had refused to acknowledge, that the council had become a tool for maintaining power, not for advancing our collective future." The Araxian delegate spoke next. "In 10 years, this cooperative has achieved more progress than the council did in a century. Our combined medical science has cured diseases that plagued us for generations. Our joint defense fleet ensures security without domination. Our trade networks bring prosperity to worlds the council ignored." One by one, representatives shared stories of how the new alliance had transformed their worlds. The Myzora spoke of children growing strong again. Smaller species described technological advancements that would have been impossible under council restrictions. The Vorak observer shifted uneasily in his seat. His expression was difficult to read, but the rigid posture suggested discomfort, or perhaps regret. Near the end of the session, a junior aide approached Paul and whispered something in his ear. He nodded and addressed the assembly. "We have received a formal request from the remnants of the Galactic Council. They wish to upgrade their observer status to associate membership in the cooperative." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many of these delegates had suffered under council rule for centuries. Some looked resistant to the idea. "I propose we put this to a vote," Paul said. "As is our tradition, every voice carries equal weight." The voting commenced, with each species recording their position on the request. As the results appeared on the main display, Paul studied them carefully. By a narrow margin, the Assembly approves the Council's request for associate membership, with a probationary period of 5 standard years. The Vorak observer's 6 eyes blinked rapidly in surprise. "There is one more matter to address," Paul continued. "As Prime Representative of Earth, I must record humanity's vote on this issue." The room fell silent. "Humanity abstains," Paul announced. "We will neither support nor oppose the Council's membership. They must be judged by those they once ruled, not by us." The symbolic power of the gesture was lost on no one. The species that had been dismissed and overlooked by the Council would now determine its fate. As the session concluded, Alex Hayes, now an elder statesman, approached the Vorak observer. "Did you ever wonder," Alex asked quietly, "what might have happened if you had simply welcomed us as equals 10 years ago?" The Vorak looked at the magnificent chamber, at the prosperity and unity it represented. "Every day," he replied. Throughout the galaxy, the story of how humanity transformed interstellar politics by simply leaving the table became legend. It was taught to aspiring diplomats of all species as the moment when fear of human potential gave way to respect for human principles.